Support for Louisiana, the state we're in, is provided by
Entergy Louisiana is strengthening our power grid throughout the state. We're reinforcing infrastructure to prepare for stronger storms, reduce outages, and respond quicker when you do need us, because together we power life.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
So this is not going to be a normal edition of Louisiana, the state we're in.
That's right, Kara. You have some big news to share.
I absolutely do.
Well, let's get started.
All right.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen LeBlanc.
And I'm Kara St. Cyr.
And Kara has some big news to share with us.
I do. So I can't say too much right now, but I am journeying to the West Coast. I'll be moving to California. So this will be my last show for Louisiana, the state we're in.
Okay, cry, frowny face, but I'm actually super excited for you personally and professionally. So this show is dedicated to Kara's greatest hits as a journalist for the past 3 years here at LPB. And so our attention turns to one of your favorite interviews, and that is Sister Helen Prejean. She is she's against the death penalty, and she's dedicated her entire life's work to abolishing the death penalty, and you did a great story with her.
Yes, I did. So at the time whenever I did this story, inmates on death row in Louisiana applied for clemency to then Governor John Bell Edwards, and Sister Helen Prejean was of course very involved in that effort, and she's kind of a local celebrity here in Louisiana. There was a movie and a book done about her, and while I was interviewing her, there were these quotes that she gave, very powerful quotes that I think would resonate with our viewers, and I just want to go and play some of those for you right now.
The more you look at the system and see how broken it is, you understand why. We'll see what happens. But what you do when you're working for justice is you work for the principle of it, and then you leave the success up to God and the people.
Kara, that was a really powerful statement from Sister Helen Prejean.
It was, and it was really amazing hearing it in person. And we've done a lot of stories like that, the more serious stories. And another one of the stories, and really the series that I'm proud of, is The Way Forward, because we worked on that together. That was our election coverage, and that was really our first project together. You were new, we were getting started. I was doing analysis of election issues, and you were interviewing the candidates for the gubernatorial election. Yeah. So I'm really proud of it, and we covered several topics there, things like coastal restoration, the fiscal cliff, brain drain, crime in Louisiana, and I think we did that together really well.
It was great teamwork because we covered the issues, but we also showed the personalities and personal stories of the candidates, so we really together gave viewers a very well-rounded picture of all of the candidates running for governor.
Yeah, and so the two stories that I really liked from that series were, number one, explaining the fiscal cliff, and also the brain drain, which is an issue here in Louisiana where people under the age of 34 are leaving, our educated population. So what we did was we put together a small compilation of both of those stories just to give you an idea of what it was and what we worked on. What is a fiscal cliff? By definition, a fiscal cliff is a set of financial factors that cause or threaten sudden and severe economic decline. In our case, a fiscal cliff is a looming financial deficit in a budget, meaning there isn't enough money to cover expenses. Without it, state agencies like the police department or the Department of Education wouldn't have enough funding to sustain themselves.
If we don't fix the structural budget deficit, we can't fix any of our other problems.
There were concerns that we were headed toward a fiscal cliff. Are there any truth to those claims?
Yes and no. On paper, it does look like there may be a fiscal deficit in some future years. It's important to remember that the revenue forecasts are incredibly conservative.
But some disagree that lowering taxes and limiting spending is enough to avoid a financial cliff.
Even right now, in a pretty good budget year, we don't have enough revenue coming into the state to provide basic services for people who need them.
Whether you believe there's a looming fiscal cliff and what should be done about it is up to you, voter. Listen carefully and choose wisely.
The human brain varies somewhat from person to person.
The phenomenon is called the brain drain, and it's hitting Louisiana particularly hard. But why? There's an epidemic spreading across the southern U.S., where educated people under the age of 34 are leaving their hometowns, taking their talents and expertise with them to other parts of the country. How many people are we losing?
If you go back to 2000, which is the longest period in time that we have data, so the last 21 years, we've lost about 110,000 college-educated people on net. So we've had some move in, but we've lost 110,000 more than we've gained, which is about 5,000 a year.
But what can we do to prevent this?
From an economic perspective, one factor that really has more of a local flavor is housing affordability. So local communities can get involved and look at multifamily housing units. So zoning is a big issue that affects housing costs. And so rezoning areas from single family to multifamily can lower housing costs and make things more affordable.
And those stories remain relevant. We'll continue to track them.
Yeah, and if you want to watch the full stories, you can go to lpb.org and you can see all of those there.
And speaking of relevant, here's what is trending this week. If you've been scrolling through your social media, then you know that TikTok food critic Keith Lee has been eating his way through parts of Louisiana, Baton Rouge in particular.
Yeah, so Keith Lee is a TikTok sensation. He goes around the country reviewing these restaurants. He eats the food. Sometimes he gives really good reviews. Sometimes not so much.
And smoothies that was recommended from one of the biggest food creators here in Baton Rouge. I got it, let's try it, and rate it 1 through 10. We spent $30.24. The customer service, my family said, was really good. This is a healthy black-owned spot. I'm gonna show you everything I got, and we're gonna try it and rate it 1 through 10. A Blue Dream smoothie with coconut water as the base, hibiscus and sea moss, and a classic acai bowl. This is Blue Dream. It's mango, pineapple, banana, blue spirulina, blue spirulina, I gotta say it right, and sea moss and coconut water as the base. That might be coconut cream instead of coconut water, the white.
And he's a big tipper.
He's a huge tipper. So he'll leave sometimes thousands of dollars at different restaurants. And the amazing thing about him is that the restaurants that he goes to and that he reviews positively, they get a lot of foot traffic afterwards. So it's actually a really big deal that he's here.
It's really amazing how influencer reviews have become like the most coveted advertisement for businesses. And I love the fact that he's been dropping $3,000 tips at some of these Baton Rouge establishments.
Yeah. And it's small
very
local
generous
restaurants as well. So not the big chains. It's the small mom and pop shops that really keep Louisiana's culture alive.
All right, so if you are a sports fan, listen up. This weekend, LPB will be in Natchitoches. It is the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. The 2024 class of inductees will be announced and honored at a ceremony. I will be doing some interviews on the purple carpet, which is like the red carpet, on Saturday at 6 o'clock. We'll be live streaming leading up to the actual event.
All right, so if you keep up with our show, you know I have no idea what goes on in the sports world. I usually ask Karen all of these questions. So for the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, tell me a little bit more about it. So who's going to be there?
Yeah.
And then do you have a favorite Hall of Famer?
Okay, so probably the most recognizable member of the 2024 class of inductees is Drew Brees.
Okay, yeah, I know that name. He's kind of like Tom Brady, but for Louisiana.
That's a good analogy. But the great thing about this is it's not just about the athletes. There are coaches and sports journalists and sports ambassadors. So it really is a well-rounded and a great opportunity to shine the light on Louisiana's world-class athletes. And by the way, you can watch my interviews live from the purple carpet. We will be live streaming at 6 p.m., an hour leading up to the main event at 7 p.m. We'll be live streaming that as well. That is Saturday, June 22nd. You can go to lpb.org to watch all the action.
All right, that sounds exciting, Karen.
Well, stay tuned. All right, so switching gears, we're gonna head out into the swamp.
Yes,
right?
we are. So this next story was actually suggested to me by a photographer who is not on camera here, but he brought this story up to me. There's an artist, her name is Leslie Charleville, and what she does is she takes prints of animals, alligators specifically. So we got out on a boat and she took me on a gator hunt with her. And I've never done anything like that in my life.
That's quite brave of you.
It was. Have you ever seen an alligator that's 6 feet tall?
At the zoo, and had the safety behind a fence.
Oh, no, they were sitting right next to me in the boat. So at first it was really scary because I'm like, oh my goodness, is this thing gonna get up and move and walk toward me? But after a while I got used to it. It made me appreciate, my own Louisiana culture even more.
All in the name of art and journalism. Let's take a look.
Yes.
I've done a lot of things in this career, but hanging out on a boat seems to be a reporter's rite of passage in Louisiana. And today, I'm embarking on that journey with Leslie Charleville.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Leslie is an artist with a unique medium. She documents marine life in their most authentic form. She's printed fish, crabs, anything really. But her most difficult task is documenting these creatures. Louisiana's unofficial mascot, the alligator. To start, you have to go on a hunt. We're out in Orleans Parish in the marsh, where pieces of rotten chicken are hanging from a pole. And that's just the beginning.
What were his hopes and dreams? Okay.
Yep, that's roll. All right, can you grab the leg?
Like this leg?
Yep, the string's cut. So.
Okay. Ah! Oh, it is a boy! Is that what y'all? Oh my goodness. Here's a leg.
The first gator was pulled in pretty easily. Leslie's second, however, that was a horse of a totally different color.
Okay, so the thing is, if the front legs come over, you got him with you. Good.
Yeah. Okay.
You just gotta get the front legs over. So I'm gonna grab the head.
Just that same tack to the back.
And somebody each grab a leg.
Yep.
Louisiana is extremely strict about who can hunt these creatures and how many they can take. A hunter must be licensed, and they have to tag each alligator they harvest. Plus, all of this is reported and monitored to the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. It's kept the population steady for decades now.
He's moving a lot. And then he's not moving yet, but I'm sure whenever he does, he will scare us all.
After catching 4 alligators, it's back to the dock to start the art process.
People request a specific size when they're working with
People request specific size and color combinations. So you'll see, like behind you, we've got a white. Those are things that are requested.
Okay.
A blue on a white canvas, white on blue canvas, white on gray. So we've got some very specific requests.
What is this actually called, what you're doing?
It's called Gyotaku, and it was originated in Japan back in the 17th century.
We're staying in the swamp now. If you thought the gator story was scary, this is even scarier.
Thank you for the introduction, Karen. So I got to tell everyone the legend of the fufale, and I would like to point out that I thought it was pronounced fifale at first, but I interviewed a former folklore professor, and he said that it's actually pronounced fufale. So basically, if you've ever heard of this story, it's about the ghost. And it's about a ghost of a baby, and it wanders around in the swamps of Louisiana. So I got to put together a story of this legend, and it was very fun. I think this is one of the most fun stories that I've done here, and it's also a really good example of Louisiana history come to life.
I'd say creepy.
Deep in the heart of Louisiana's bayou, it's easy to lose your way in the night. Maybe it's the darkness, or is it the shadows, or is it the spirit of the fufale?
Can you find me? Can you find me?
One can only hope that if they are ever so unlucky as to cross paths with this entity, that they make it home alive.
Many people describe them as the souls of unbaptized babies who were roaming in limbo. And you would see the light of their souls at night. And people used to claim that they would try to lure people away from the right path, to like get them lost in the prairies or the woods. My aunt and uncle remember it and told lots of stories about seeing, the round bales that you see out now. They were as big as that, and they would roll and bounce, along the ground. That's what they said. They were big lights, big, huge balls of firelight rolling. And my aunt specified that they looked blue, whitish blue. There was a blue tint to them.
As the story goes, the faint light of the feu follet would shine for travelers walking Louisiana's roads and bayous at night. They'd see the spirit of the unbaptized child in the distance and confuse it for a candle or lantern that led them home. But as they followed it, the lights would lead them further into the darkness, and sometimes toward their death.
People would often tell stories about how they saw a light down the way, thinking, oh, that's the light at the house I'm trying to get to, the lantern at the house I'm trying to get to. But then it would move and said, oh, I must have gotten turned around. I'll go this way. No, I'll go this way. And they would get lost in the woods when in fact the light was moving.
So it's trying to trick you.
Trying to trick you. They weren't so malevolent. They weren't evil. They weren't considered evil. They were considered just rascally or impish, playing tricks on people. But sometimes the tricks had consequences.
Though the name of this story is uniquely Cajun, the origin is not so much. The feu follet is loosely based on the European will-o'-the-wisp, which is a ghost, fairy, or elemental spirit that seeks to lead you astray. The ball of light it emits is usually blue, and you could find them late at night in bogs or low-lying wet areas. When the French settled in Louisiana, they changed the name to feu follet. The feu means fire, and follet loosely translates to wisp.
Why are they unbaptized babies specifically?
Unbaptized babies were, described as being in limbo, wandering around between. You can't get into heaven, but can't be sent to hell, according to Catholic tradition or belief. And so, I guess the notion of them wandering, sort of caught and can't go anywhere else, may have had something to do with it.
Now, there are a number of reasons for this story, and not all of them are exciting. In fact, most of them are scientific. The light that travelers saw was most likely a product of gas. Barry took me to a lot on his property where his aunt encountered the feu follet to give me a better idea.
If you cut hay and it gets wet before you bale it, sometimes it produces methane and it will spontaneously combust. We had a fire that the fire department had to come and put out some bales of hay that were baled wet, and they started smoldering and caught fire. So if people had just cut their hay and there were clumps and it got wet, it'll start rotting and produce methane and sometimes catch fire.
For all of you who don't know, a methane fire is sometimes blue. Barry's home is located near an old oil well site that produced the gas.
This is the old well site. So this was sort of a naturally low occurring spot. And then right behind those big trees, that tree line right there, there's a swamp.
A swamp.
And it gets, holds about this much water. Maybe sometimes in heavy rains it'll hold this much water. My dad and uncle used to go catfishing in there, in fact. And that was another naturally occurring low spot. So it would, a spot that would have likely produced gas from decomposition.
Barry's last explanation is a little more unconventional, but gas produced by cows on location could have also produced enough methane to cause a spark. Now, if you ever come across the feu follet, here's what you should do.
You could avoid having them make you get lost by planting a multi-blade knife, a pocket knife, into a fence post or a stump, and sticking it. And apparently the feu follet was interested in its own reflection, and would come and dance around the blades and, play in the blades. And that way you could get away.
I'm not here to tell you what's true or not. That's up to you to decide. But this Halloween, when you're walking through the darkness, don't follow the light. You may not come back.
As journalists, what a great opportunity for us to cover such a wide range of stories, from hard-hitting news to art and culture and scary stories.
Scary stories, yes.
And also just to take a deep dive into issues. LPB has won a lot of awards for content like Precipice and Ritual, but one of the most prestigious is, of course, the Emmy, which you won for the series, The Green Book.
Yes, so back in 2022, me and my co-producer, Emma Reed, put together a series called Safe Haven, Louisiana's Green Book, where we went to 10 locations listed in the book. So we interviewed people who remembered businesses, taverns, bars, places that aren't even in business anymore. And, that was one of my favorite things that I've done here. I am the most proud of this series because in addition to, winning the Emmy, I got to learn so much about Louisiana's history, and I don't think people realize the impact that Louisiana has had in the civil rights movement over the years. In this series, I got to learn all of that, and I also got to preserve it for viewers to look at for years to come.
I love that. Really, these are stories that would be lost to history if it were not for your work. And also, Emma Reed, your co-producer, so we'll give shout out to her as well.
But yes, she did a lot of work and a lot of research, so this Emmy would not have been possible without her either. So I like to always highlight all the work that she's done. And the next episode was actually something that she had found, and it was about a house in Opelousas, and it operated as kind of an Airbnb, but during the 60s and during the civil rights era. So this is one of my favorites. It's the very first episode that we ever did, and I cannot wait for you guys to watch this one again.
It's hard to believe if I were to travel just 70 years ago, this little guide could potentially save my life. I'm Kara St. Cyr, and this is Safe Haven, Louisiana's Green Book. 1939 was the second year that the Green Book was published. For a small rural town, Opelousas had a surprisingly vibrant African-American commercial district. They called it the Hill. For some reason, the businesses in the Hill never made it into the Green Book, with one exception: tourist homes.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing, love?
My name is Kara.
Kara, I'm Wilbur, Jerome.
Sub Jerome remembers one of these homes very well.
When they had big bands came through this town. Yeah, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Etta James, Sam Cooke, B.B. King. All these named people came to this club here in Opelousas.
The club Sub is referring to is Bradford's White Eagle, a famous venue on the Chitlin Circuit, which was for black musicians.
And back in those days, they didn't have many hotels or motels for blacks. So they had to go live in different people's houses, And my grandmother took a bunch of them in. You see that house on the corner right here, the left, right here?
Yeah, I can see it.
That's the big house right there.
Sub's grandmother, Beulah Jerome, ran a tourist home, and they called it the Big House.
Because it was the big house. There were people there all the time, 24/7. You had teachers lived there, students, construction workers. You would never go in that house if there wasn't anything cooked on that stove.
This is the Big House on the corner of South Lombard Street. We're meeting Sub's cousin, Donald Jerome. He grew up in the brick house right behind it.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Kara. I work here.
Luckily, the current tenant, Mrs. Betty, welcomed us inside.
Well, everything is the same outside, but the inside was renovated.
They had 6 rooms?
6 bedrooms, living room and a kitchen and 1 bathroom. All these people that were using 1 bathroom. And right here in this room here, she had a piano in there. They were old man Doom used to play the piano over here. Yeah, they were dancing here.
Yeah.
So they would come here while your grandmother was here?
Yeah, she rent rooms out.
Even if she didn't know them, she would?
Hey, well, back in them days, people wasn't like
that's
you now,
about the Green Book. Well, blacks couldn't stay in hotels.
They didn't have any.
Oh,
wow.
Anytime you had nowhere to go, you slept in your car. There just wasn't no place for them. Just come to these houses, that all they could come to these houses, and rent a room.
Surprisingly, this safe haven wasn't even in an all-black neighborhood.
But all this across the street was white people.
Okay.
And over here was white people.
Okay.
Yeah. And across the street was white people too. So we were, like I told them earlier, I live in a neighborhood, we were the only black family in the block.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
I told her I was 10 years old before I knew I was black.
Opelousas had one of the only all-black high schools in the area, which drew teachers from all over the state.
People would bring their kids here, some of them come in wagons.
The Jerome House remained in the Green Book for 27 years until its last publication in 1966.
You know, when I moved here, they say a lot of teachers live here, but I really didn't know the history, the real history about it. And now I'm getting this opportunity to witness it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Today, most people don't even know this neighborhood was called The Hill. Almost all of the black-owned businesses here closed after integration, and things seem to fall apart. I'm beginning to learn this story is not uncommon.
That's our show for this week, but Kara, on a personal note, I have to say it has been an honor and a privilege to work with you. I think you are so talented and an incredible journalist, and you are just going to go out there and conquer the world. You have so much to offer, and I truly, truly wish you the best, both personally and professionally, though I will be sad to see you go. You will be missed.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor telling Louisiana stories for the past 3 years and even before, because I've been in Louisiana all my life. So thank you so much for everybody that's tuned in and watched over the years. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And to all of the crew here at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, thank you for making all of my stories and all of the work that we do here possible.
And here is our goodbye. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our LPB app.
Remember, you can watch LPB news and public affairs shows, as well as other Louisiana programs you've come to enjoy over the years. And please like us on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
For everyone at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Karen LeBlanc.
And I'm Kara St. Cyr. For the last time, that's the state we're in.
Support for Louisiana, the state we're in, is provided by
Entergy Louisiana is strengthening our power grid throughout the state. We're reinforcing infrastructure to prepare for stronger storms, reduce outages, and respond quicker when you do need us, because together we power life.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana.
And by Visit Baton Rouge and the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and viewers like you. Thank you.